the Prophet of Thought series. Prophet of Thought series. Prophet of Thought series. Open your mind.
Peace, folks, and welcome back to another edition of the Prophet of Thought series right here on the old YouTube page. Y'all know what it is tonight. Thank you for coming through. Y'all know that tonight is the night of Unicorn 4, the ladies of thought. They will be dropping in and dropping some jewels on your heads. Matter of fact, let me play a little bit of their theme music. Let me set the tone for y'all. I can't find the damn beat. There it is. There we are.
Lady Kendra, Lady Cactus, Lady Classic, Lady Ming.
So tonight, folks, myself and Unicorn 4, we will be breaking down fathers, the importance of fathers, what happens when there's not a father, and probably more importantly, we're also going to discuss what men are suited to be fathers and likewise what men are not. So this is going to be a hot one, y'all. I mean, Lady Ming, I see Lady Ming already in the house. What's good, Lady Ming?
Nothing much. How are you?
I'm good.
That's good.
I guess I'll just run my mouth till the rest of the unicorns get up in here. Char Will, what's good? I see you up there, lady. Yeah, I know, I don't know if y'all was, well, let me start here first before I even get going on anything else. First thing I want to say is I got a few donations today, and I actually got some late last night too. So y'all know I always like to thank y'all for the donations. I appreciate y'all. Y'all know who y'all are. Y'all know I'm not going to call your name out because that's not what I do. But you know, everybody who donates to me, I say this all the time. I always write you a personal email thanking you So I appreciate y'all. I do. I really appreciate the donations. I do, y'all. You know, and like I always say, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to sink it back into the platform that you guys support. So I just want to say on the air, thank you very much. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all investing into TPOT. I appreciate y'all believing in TPOT, and I definitely appreciate y'all financially supporting TPOT. And everyone who did donate, you know who you are, because I wrote you and said thank you. Now, I got that out of the way. Tonight, like I said, we're going to be talking about fathers, and you know, it's going to get heated, sort of like last night. I don't know if y'all was around last night. Last night I had I had my boy Corey Hayward on, and of course brother Cerulean Gray was on too, so you know that was a heated one. And I did something stupid, y'all. I know y'all gonna think I'm just stupid as hell. I don't know if y'all had tried to go back and look at it today, because I had mistakenly deleted it this morning. Because y'all know, I do the streams, and at the end of the stream, I just will go to bed. So the next day I usually get up, and even if I don't watch it all at once, I watch a little of it throughout the day, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Because you miss a lot of stuff, while you're talking and you're looking at the chat and everybody's conversating. So I always go back and I look at it again. And this morning I went to look at it and made a mistake, y'all, and deleted the damn stream. I was like, but what I did, I was able to capture the link, and I just wrote YouTube, and I was like, look, I was stupid and I messed around and deleted the shit by mistake. And guess what, y'all? They recovered it, and now it's back up there. So if you missed last night's stream, it was a really, really good stream. Brother Corey Hayward was up there, Universal Jones, BJ Allen D was on it, and brother Cerulean Gray. Y'all know that brother Cerulean Gray is just straight fire. So if y'all missed that stream, y'all need to go back and check it out. And brother Faulkner too. Yeah, brother Faulkner was on there as well. So if you missed it, you can go back. It's up now. They put it back up. They reinstated it. So it's all good, y'all. I just made a stupid ass mistake, not paying attention, trying to do two things at one time, and mess around and deleted the shit. So, but it's back up now if y'all missed it. Just putting that out there. All right. I see the unicorns have assembled. Lady Classic, Lady Cats, Lady Kendra, Lady Ming. What's good, ladies?
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
What's going on? Y'all ready for this? I know y'all are.
Hopefully.
I know y'all are. So, okay, let's get right into it. Now we know that fathers are important, right? There's no denying that. I mean, we can fudge the numbers, and we can argue and haggle over percentages and how kids turn out, the percentages of kids that turn out better when they have fathers as opposed to the kids who don't. We can haggle over the percentages of schooling and grades and achievement and all that kind of stuff. We can do all that, but we're not. We're basically going to get to the meat and potatoes of it. Now, as we all know, because we all heard this figure many, many times, all right, within Black society, the illegitimacy rate of Black folks usually hovers somewhere between 70 and 75%. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that these kids have no fathers. All it means is that the kids who are being born, the father isn't married to the mom. Now, some of those I'm pretty sure, because Black men, we're the best fathers in the world, I'm pretty sure that some of these kids have some of these brothers in their lives. But there's a whole lot of them that don't. All right? So, my first question to you ladies is, do you believe that these women who have these children, and these children don't have a regular father in their life, not even a weekend father, because I think a weekend father is better than a zero father. Do you ladies believe that these women are doing these children a disservice by not having fathers in their lives? Whoever want to go first can go.
I think they are. I think children should be able to see the interaction between men and women, and the biggest, I guess, the first interaction a child would see would be between the mother and the father. But if the parents don't want to talk to each other, then then the child, whether it be a boy or a girl, will not know how to interact with the person of the other gender, which ends up causing all this bad communication that we have going on in the Black community right now.
Okay, next up.
Okay, well, the way that I see this is that obviously, by and large, a child having their father in their life is the best possible option. But, with that being said, given your question, is it always a disservice when the father is not in the child's life? Not necessarily, depending on the condition of the father, which, of course, in and of itself is then why are, these women choosing to have children with men who are not in a position to be good fathers, are violent, are angry, are abusive in some other kind of way that, it would be better for the child not to grow up in that situation. So, in that case, yeah, mothers for sure are doing their children a disservice. But I need to add in as well that there are fathers who are doing their children a disservice because there are also fathers that are either walking away or, not being good role models, good people for their children. They're not kind of doing that thing that you expect even, the young to kind of do when they find out they're going to be a parent and, you know, try to fix themselves a little bit to be like, what, I have a kid coming into this world and whatever. We see men do it all the time where, maybe they were just, a little bit out there partying, drinking, whatever. And then you find out this kid's on the way and, it kind of makes them grow up. So, I think that ultimately we, as a community especially, are doing a disservice to our younger generations by not considering all of those factors before moving forward and having children.
Okay. Next up.
I think that overall, we need to have the fathers around. We're doing the children a disservice overall by not having them around if we choose to broad brushstroke the whole situation. But if you were to look case by case, you may reserve the right to say, no, he's actually more of a hindrance than a helpmate if he's around. To Ruby's point, has to start a little bit before that in terms of like mate selection, from the beginning. Um, and why are women choosing to have kids with these men that they know weren't good human beings to them, good people to the other people they're around, thus won't be good fathers? Because a lot of this you can tell, but then you have circumstances like my own where I was too young to really know any better. But then after my daughter's already here, I see that he's violent and, so on and so forth. And we're better off without him than with him in the picture. And conversely, I didn't do child support or anything like that. But he was the type of individual who has to take, anger management classes, who has something is wrong chemically, some sort of chemical imbalance in his brain that needs to be fixed or can't be fixed. So, he of course shouldn't have been around. He couldn't have did her any more harm. He could have only done her more harm than she's already went through without him actually being in the picture. That's how much of a bad person he is overall to anybody he touches. So I think that overall, yes, we need our fathers, but then case by case, sometimes it's best that they aren't.
Lady Kendra.
Yeah, I have to. We're coming to a consensus. Um, yeah, if we're gonna speak in general terms, yeah, the disservice is being done by not having consistency because our children do not witness functional relationships. They grow up not knowing how to have one, and that's probably the one of the biggest forms of disservice that we're doing is not showing them what a healthy functional relationship between two people looks like. And when they don't know that, then they grow up and TV tells them what it looks like, and their peers tell them what it looks like, and all social media tells them what it looks like, which we know will most likely misinform them. And they'll have all these different ideas about how to have a relationship, how you're supposed to treat people. And it's wrong 9 times out of 10. And then they grow up and they don't have these, they get jaded, they get hurt, or they hurt others. And then, sometimes they're in and out of relationships. Sometimes they end up never having anything that fulfills them. So, yeah, broad stroke, we're doing them a disservice. Case by case, yeah, there are cases where sometimes the guy is just not interested and he walks away. He doesn't want to be a parent. He never did. And he's just not going to do it. There's nothing she can do to make him do it. Um, and then you've got situations where the parent is toxic. Now, since we're speaking about fathers specifically, we'll just leave it there that sometimes the dad is toxic, but I am going to kind of throw it out there that sometimes the mother is toxic.
Mm. Well, being a man and being a father myself, I know when my first son was born, I mean, I had my kids young, I was stupid. So, young and stupid. So, yep, young, stupid, irresponsible as hell. And when my son was born, I mean, I was still a teenager. And to be honest, I wasn't ready to be a parent. I mean, I just wasn't ready to be a parent. I wasn't ready to be a father. But, I grew up in a nuclear family. So, I mean, my father didn't die till I was like 37 years old. So I had my father around me my whole life. And to be honest with you, when she told me that she was pregnant, I was just going to bounce. I mean, my first instinct was to just bounce. And I talked to my old man about it. And I was like, Pop, she's pregnant, and my old man was like, well, hey, is it yours? I said, I'm pretty sure. He said, well, he said, you have to do for it what I did for you. And that is what kind of made me, try to be a father, try to prepare to be a father. I just kind of built off of what I had learned from my old man, watching my old man and my mom. I mean, I just kind of built for that. I just built from that. But even with that, I still wasn't really ready. I didn't really want to be a father. I mean, when someone gets pregnant, the first thing they always say to a man is, oh man, you need to man up, this, that, and the other thing. A girl getting pregnant, a girl having the baby, that doesn't necessarily automatically snap you into readiness to be a father, especially when you're young. That's why I'm always telling brothers, a penis doesn't think. And I tell them to think with their mind and not their penis, because, see, just because this girl has this baby for you, it isn't going to automatically turn you into a father. It's just not. So you're better off not getting into that situation to begin with. But once the child is here, and you got this young guy who's 16, 17, 18, and some guys that are in their 20s that aren't ready to be a father. Now, he's in a predicament where he's either going to do one or two things. He's either going to try like hell to be in a child's life, or he's just going to totally disregard the kid whatsoever. Now, you have a lot of scenarios with that, because you can be a brother to try like hell to be in this child's life, right? And the woman can give you heat over that. Or you can be a brother who just stays the hell away and still get heat over that. So my next question to you ladies is, a lot of the children that we know are in Black society who don't have access to their fathers, do you believe that it is just the fact that these guys don't want to be bothered with these children, or are the mothers making it more difficult? And if you know of examples of either one, please expound on them. Whoever wants to go can go.
I think it's a mixture of a bunch of different things. I think there are some guys who don't want to be bothered with their kids. But I also think it might mostly be that the guys don't want to have to deal with, I guess, the mothers of their children, because there's a lot of emotions that go into it. So I guess they figure, why bother? And then sometimes I think some women don't want the fathers to be involved. So I think it's very nuanced, in my opinion.
Okay, next up.
Well, I think that there are certainly people who are using children, specifically fatherhood, as a privilege. So, and I'll say it because it applies differently depending on which gender we're looking at. So with the mother, let's say, you break up and whatever, now it's a privilege for you to be able to see your kid. It's a privilege. I'm going to use this kid as a piece of bait in front of you and basically toy with you. Oh, because I don't, I want to be able to still manipulate you even though you've left me. On the other side, you have the fathers sometimes who are saying, well, you know what, you may or may not get the privilege of me fathering your child, as though it's about the mother, and him being present for the child helps the mom. And so again, you're kind of getting that same game. So you do definitely have people who are doing that. You have, the ones who are just not going to grow up, and they don't want the responsibility. It scares them, so they look for an excuse to run away. You have the women who, are either vengeful, hateful, scared, whatever it is, saying, I don't want the child, to have access. So, I mean, and I have personally seen, and I live in Canada, and I've personally seen all of the above. My uncle's first child, the mother took that kid and basically put him on child support, did all the crazy stuff, started lying that he was abusive and he had to see his kid in a visiting center. And then one day she just didn't bring that kid. And for years, I was a little bit younger, and she would let me by myself go and visit her and this kid. And then one day she told me not to come for the next week. And then when I showed up the week after, she was gone. And that was it. And no one saw or spoke to this kid for 17 years. So, I mean, I've seen situations like that. I've seen situations where for 8 years, this little girl would wait at the window for her dad, who claimed he was coming, week after week after week after week, and just mostly never showed up. And when he would show up and come and bring her into his new life with the new wife and the new kids and whatever, she was basically neglected, sometimes actually mistreated. My little cousin who lives in the United States, that was exactly her case. The mother didn't broke up with my uncle, and one day she was 3 years old, my cousin, and she got dropped off on her dad's doorstep. And the mom was like, "Well, I'm about to get married, and I want nothing to do with this kid. So here you go." And he didn't really want anything to do with his kid, and he was severely neglecting her. Like, she was bathing herself in a pitch black tub because no one cleaned that tub or bathed her at 4 years old. Um, and we took her and brought her to Canada. We were going to raise her, and he came and took her back so he could continue neglecting her. So, and I think on some level he was punishing the mother, even though the mother had nothing to do with it, for not taking care of her. So, I mean, I've seen some really vengeful, spiteful shit on either side that really did a lot of damage to the parents. And, I think it's just unfortunate at the end of the day because no one realizes that the deepest, most meaningful damage that it's going to do is to the child who is caught in the middle of two people who can't just grow up, get over themselves, and be about the kid because it's not about you anymore.
Next up.
I think it's a mixture. I don't have any examples to pull from in terms of women who kept the kid away or fathers who just didn't want to be bothered, none personally. I know my own situation is probably a mixture of the two as it pertains to my daughter's father. I got pregnant with her at 15. I had her at 15, and I turned 16 the next month after she was born, and he was 21. So he, at the beginning, didn't want to be bothered and all of that mess. And then I had to keep her away. My family did overall a little bit because, like I mentioned to you before, he's a little crazy. Like I have a scar in the back of my head now from him throwing me up against the window, breaking out my car windows, like just all type of crazy mess. So he was more of a detriment than he was a helpmate. I mean, the man even held his sister head underwater before. Like he's got some screws loose. But what I didn't do, I never made our issues or even his issues in public to my daughter like that. Like when she got like say 12, 13, 14 or whatever, and I moved back to Chicago from the East Coast, he came around, but again, it's volatile. So we'll talk over the phone, everything will be cool. And then he want to just like, spaz out, and then it's not cool. And I have to put him on, block, like you can't call me anymore. By this time she has a cell phone now, so you could just call her, but I always kept communication open, anything she had going on, her sweet 16, graduation, luncheon, all those things. He never showed up to any of it. And what I chose to tell her was that he loves her the best way he knows how, which is what I truly believe in my heart. Because I think he does love her. He calls her his, diamond and princess and all those other things. But this man is incapable of real love. He doesn't know what it looks like. He didn't receive it. He doesn't know how to give it. And I think he does the best that he kind of knows how. And I did that so that as an adult, she could form her own opinion and would never sit back and say, my mama said, or my mama did, or I can be the blame guy. I always kept that communication open. I just didn't put up with none of the shit. And him knowing that, especially as she's gotten older, she's 22 now, he doesn't even try to come at me that way because he know I'll shut down communication 100% and we won't be in communication at all. And I'll keep on moving forward because I never put him on child support, never made life hell, never asked you for anything, never asked him to apologize for anything. All I ever wanted him to do was just be there for his daughter the way that he's supposed to be. And then if you can't, then you need to move around, because she does have other male role models in her life, like my husband and my brothers and stuff like that. So I, I guess I'm kind of in the middle because I know I did keep her away a little bit, but I also know he didn't want to be bothered either, especially at the beginning. She's 22 now. So a lot of that is under the bridge. But it was for self-preservation too. Like I couldn't afford for him to know where we lived, for instance, because he's the type of person that have been and burnt our house down. Like he's crazy like that.
Mm.
So I
But
did what I thought was best,
well,
and now that we're out of
we're
that.
gonna circle back round to that one. We're gonna circle back
Mm-hmm.
round to that one. Uh,
Mm-hmm. But other than that,
um,
I'll wrap it up there then so we could touch back on it later. But
yeah,
I
yeah,
really don't have any other examples other than
we're gonna
that of
circle back round to
people.
him being crazy, Lady Bang. We coming
Oh
back.
man.
We coming back to that, Lady Kendra.
Oh wow. Um, I don't. Let's see. Examples. It's hard for me to think of personal examples. Um, because the only example that I have, a friend of mine who she was actually married to her husband when they had their child, and so the marriage did not work, but the kid was still a little kid, and he was very worried and concerned that she would put him on child support and the regular rigmarole, but she didn't. She was like, "Listen, I'm not 22 anymore. I'm not young like that anymore. I'm you got with me. I was mature. You wanted a kid. I gave you a kid." She said, "So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be adults, and we are going to uh, raise this child like we got some sense. I don't want to go and put you on child support because I don't believe in putting the court system in between what we got going. They weren't involved when we was making the kids, so they don't need to be involved with raising it. At the time, she was running her own business and stuff like that, and she was like, cause he was like, well, just give me the kid and I'll raise them. She said, well, the boy's like 2. She's like, I'm not giving you my 2-year-old. She's like, he still needs his mom. So what we'll do is I'll raise him. He'll be with me because he's so small. She said, all I really want is X amount a month between me and you. We can shake on it. Because when the divorce happened, it wasn't like super hard feelings. So they were able to be amicable with each other. And at times, just listening to things that she was talking about and how she was would vent sometimes. She was like, yeah, he didn't give me the money. He didn't do this and do that. And she would be angry at him at times, but I admired it because she never used the child as a pawn between her and the child's father. She never said, oh, well, if you don't pay money, you can't see your kid. She never tried to keep him from the little boy. She never spoke badly about him to the child. She never did any of that. And he ended up getting married again and all of that kind of stuff. And then again, he was afraid that she would keep the child from him because he got married. And she's like, well, I'm not jealous of that. She's like, the only thing I'm concerned about is she treats my child fairly when he's there. I just don't want her mistreating my child. As long as she can prove that she doesn't mistreat my child, we're fine. And to this day, little boy is not so little anymore. He's like 15. And he adores his father. And it had a lot to do, of course, with how his father interacted with him. But because she didn't make it hell, she didn't make it harder than it needed to be. She never put him on child support. She never went to the court. She never did any of it. Even on the times that he didn't give her the money that she thought he could have done it or whatever, when she was angry with him or whatever, she never used the kid as the pawn. And that's what you have to do. When the relationship doesn't work, or if it doesn't work, that's fine. But if there's a child, unless it's like a mean situation where one of the parents is abusive, you fear for your safety and things of that nature. When those things are absent, then you got to do what you got to do to make sure that the child feels the love and the attachment to both parents. It's hard enough when they have to split their time between 2 households or whatever the situation might be. It's difficult enough for the kid. So the least that could be done is that the mother and the father not put the kid in the middle more than the kid is already in the middle. Like, don't down talk the other parent. Like, that's a lot of BS that I hear about a lot of times. Like, your daddy ain't shit. He didn't come see you and he was supposed to come pick you up. Like, don't tell the kid that.
Yeah,
Don't, you know what I'm saying? Because that hurts them. And
all right,
also, if she keeps doing it, the child resents the mom if she does that when they get older.
let me ask you ladies this. Now I'm about to go into some personal stuff. Which of you ladies on this panel have had your fathers in your lives?
I've had mine in and out. After I was about like maybe 11, he had gotten remarried, and his second wife, who is now his ex-wife, she did not really want me or my little brother around. So we moved to North Carolina with our mom, and he stayed in New Orleans.
So you had him in your life when you were little, when you were younger, and then that kind of fizzled out because of the new wife?
Yeah, but I did reconnect with him when I was like 19, so we do talk now. But
okay. Well,
not when I was younger.
let me ask you this: do you believe that the fact that you did have him in your life, somewhat, because you know some children don't have a father in their life at all? Do you think that that was an asset to you or a liability?
I think it was a little bit of both. Like I think it was an asset because I did get to see that interaction between him and my mother. Um, my dad was always a fun guy, but the problem was also that my father did have a drinking problem. So when he did drink, he was a little bit more of a liability. Um,
Anybody else? Any one of the other unicorns you had your father in your life? Anybody else?
Well, for me, my story is slightly more complicated. Um, say that much. Um, and it's kind of the reason why I really do think that the formative years of your life, so up until adolescence, is probably the most important time for you to have both parents being present in important parts of your life. Um, so because I did have my parents were both teen parents. I was an oopsie accident. And in the area that we live in and whatever, like that still was not normal. So like where, I went to school and whatever, there were no divorced parents and stuff like that. Like my parents got married before I came, but I was conceived outside of marriage. And, they separated before I had, even I have no memories of them together. And but that being said, even though they hated each other, could not stand each other, they did not physically, like, they didn't tell me that they hated each other, and they went out of their way to make sure that they lived in the same city within like through grade school. Literally they lived like 5 minutes walking distance from each other. I've lived in the same little kind of niche of my city my whole life, and they've made sure to always live very close so that way I had easy access to both of them, and I went back and forth every other day and every other weekend, so they literally shared me 50-50. So I think that, but like I said, especially in those formative years where your parents are what are teaching you and molding you and kind of, when you're developing who you are, I think that having both parents is so necessary.
Okay. Lady Ming, Lady Kendra, do you had your father? Did you have your fathers in
Um,
your lives?
let's see. My mom and my dad were married. They had me. Then she wanted, they broke up. Then she wanted to have another kid. She went to him and said, I'm not having two baby daddies. So I just need you to, I want another kid. They had my brother. We're 5 years apart.
Wait a
He
minute.
did
Wait a
after
minute. Wait
that.
a minute. Wait a minute.
Yep,
Wait a
she
minute.
did.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Now they split up,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't want different baby daddies.
Mm-hmm.
So she went to where the old man was and said, "Hey, brother,
Mm-hmm.
I need your
Mm-hmm.
semen. I need some
Mm-hmm.
sperm."
Story I get from both of them too. So that is the truth. And then my brother is 33, but I have another brother. My brother with my father, my whole brother is July. He's 33. But I have another brother who was born in May, and he's also 33.
Wow.
Just so you know. I have another little sister who, if I'm 38, she just made, I think, 27. Then I have another sister who is 24. Then I have another little brother who's 7. They're 60.
Wow.
And I have
Papa,
two other
Papa,
siblings that we don't know where they are.
Papa's a rolling
Yes.
stone, huh?
Okay. Yes. And in that time period, he also did 10 years in the penitentiary.
Wow.
So
So
then,
were
go
you
ahead.
were you young? Were you young when he was in the penitentiary? Were you a young kid?
Yeah, we'll say 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, up in that age range. Because when I got pregnant, a lot of my life I divide up before I got pregnant and after I got pregnant, because of course things changed drastically. So I did a whole lot before 15. But so he was out then because he disowned me after I got pregnant. I mean, literally told me never to call him again. I'll never forget that. So then we fast forward after my daughter is born, and my daughter's father, I told you we had that scuffle that I have a scar in the back of my head from. Father came over ready to kill him, and we had to call him to calm him down. Like, no, we're not going to kill him. It's still her father, so we're not going to do that. So he was there then. Then he went down to Alabama because that's where that side of the family is from. He was a heroin addict, and he went to the methadone clinic, took half the methadone on the bus, went down to Alabama, took the other half when he got there, and never looked back.
Mm.
So he been down in Alabama for a while. We just got back into communication probably 6 years ago. And then I got my siblings together. We hopped on the road, went down to Alabama, surprised him around his birthday. And we were good after that. But then me and him just fell out again probably a year ago, maybe coming up on a year, so bad that he sent my son's picture back in the mail, talking about give it to my mama husband since that's who I care about. Stupid shit.
Mm.
So after that, I said we'll never make up again because now you've involved my children, and he's very, very immature. So to answer your question, my life would have been wouldn't have been better if he was around. It could have probably even been worse
Mm.
because then I would have had to deal with a manipulator, somebody who lacks emotional maturity, somebody who he's still 2 foot in the street, still trying to be young. Like for instance, his wife is 39.
Mm.
He has
Well,
a
well,
7-year-old. You know what I'm saying?
you know. I'm not mad. I'm not
It's a
mad.
mess.
I am not mad at the old man. I'm
But
not
listen,
mad.
he's mad. He's mad though because where we fell out is because he feels like I hold a lot of authority over people, especially as it pertains to my family. People listen to me. So he wants me to go to my mother. Now, mind you, my brother's mother has him on child support. My sister's mother has him on child support. And my mother still had him on child support. So he's 60 and they're starting to take his pension and shit, like his social security.
Mm.
I'm talking because of all that arrears in child support. He trying to go around on the campaign and get everybody to take him off child support because you could do it, Willie, if you want to. Like my mother wasn't in a situation where the government made her put her on child support. She did it on her own, so she can go down there and actually rescind it from what he
Mm.
says. She said, no, the fuck I'm not. Because what happened was last year his taxes got took. Now he doesn't work. He works odd and end jobs because he doesn't want to have to pay child support from all this shit he did in the past. So his wife went and filed taxes and claimed him, and they snatched it. Sent my mother $8,000, my brother's mother too, and the other mother like 1,200.
Wow.
And she sent half of it to me and my brother. And now that off his social security, they're actually sending money from his social security to everybody now. And
That,
all she does is send it to me and my brother. She just puts it right in the mail to us. She don't even need it. But
that
it's the point. You know what I
sucks.
mean? Because
That
of the type of individual
sucks.
he is. So he came at me and told me that I was bogus and, you didn't put your daughter's father on child support and blah, blah, this and all this other random reckless ass shit. And next thing I know, I see my son's picture in the mail talking about give it to Donnie. That's my mother's husband. He jealous because he's a retired firefighter. My mom got her shit going on, and my father is still stuck in the 70s when he was the shit.
Mm.
So we kind of fell out real big right now. Kind of fell out real big. Kind of one of them don't mention him to me unless you want to have beef with me too type of situations.
Jeez. Lady Kendra, father in the life or no?
Man, I'll follow that up. Okay. Mine ain't no better though, not really. Just in a different way. Man, Daddy the homie, but he was in and out, and he was in and out mainly when I was young because of drugs. He was hooked on cocaine back when they was freebasing it and smoking it in crack houses, and that kept him out of the house. And when he would come around, it was not good. A lot of abuse, a lot of domestic violence, a lot of chaos, just a lot. It was a lot. Um, so when I was young, I didn't like him because it was like every time he come around, it's a problem. Now, when I got a little older, I started actually seeing the actual dynamics play out between my mother and my father. And my dad is a hustler. He's a street dude. I ain't never seen him clock in nowhere. Um, he He handled conflict like a street dude handle conflict. So when my mama would bring conflict, he would handle it like a street dude handles it. And even I didn't excuse it, but I did start to understand what made him tick, like who he was as a person. Um, Juxtaposed against all of that, he would of the two of my parents, he was the one, ironically, that always had something positive to say to me. He always tried to encourage me. He always showed me affection and love. And, he tried to listen to me. He actually tried to get me as a person. So it was odd because when times were chaotic, they were extremely chaotic. But when they were peaceful, he's actually a really good listener. And he was actually a really good motivator. And so um, when he did finally clean up himself off drugs, um, it just came down to the realization that him and my mother, who I suspect has borderline personality, she definitely's got bipolar. That's been diagnosed. Um, just not gonna get along. Not gonna get along. They don't. They never have. They never will. The way she approaches things is just not good, and he does not handle it right. He does not respond well to it at all. So they eventually broke up. Now, on paper, they didn't get a divorce until way after we were all adults. Um, Even though we never had a child support thing or anything like that, all four of us are born out of wedlock between those two. So as much as my mom is who she is, she didn't like have a bunch of kids by a bunch of different people. She stayed with him. She was like, this is my husband, I'm gonna stay with him. So he, got himself together off of drugs, and then they split up, which was like devastating because at that point I'm thinking, okay, I can finally get my father in the house with me. But that was short lived. So when he left, he was gone. He was gone for real that time. There was nothing she could do to woo him back, talk to him, nothing. He was just like, I'm done. But I'm not done with my kids. Those are my children. And I'm going to always be there for my kids, regardless of whether or not me and you get along. And he did. He didn't abandon us. He didn't, he tried to be around as much as possible. She tried things here and there, but it was always half-hearted to keep us away from him. She never really, really wanted us away from him. Um, Man, I'm trying not to get emotional. Daddy is the homie now, though. Like, I would take a bullet and give one for him. Through all of that, I patterned myself after him because I didn't have a strong female to pattern after. So the way in which his thought process and all of that, I like patterned myself. I'm the woman I am because of him. And I'm proud to say that, like, with all his shortcomings and all the problems and all of everything, like, daddy is the homie, man. Like, I love my dad down to the socks, man. Like, man, it ain't nothing that nobody can do or say to that old man. Nothing. Like that man got me, man. That's my heart, man. Like I said, I'm the woman I am today because of my dad.
Wow. Well, we're gonna swing on over to brother Jay Shine, because I know he's a single father, so he can kind of give us a in-depth perspective of what it's about to be a father, especially a single father. I'm guessing that him and the wife, I don't know, divorce, what, I don't know. I'll let him tell the story. Brother Jay Shine, you there?
Yeah, I'm here,
Brother
boss.
Jay Shine. What's good with you, man?
I'm good, man. Hey, ladies.
Um,
Hey, Jay.
so
Hey,
Good
Hello.
evening.
I
good
gotta admit,
evening.
we heard some stories that were kind of I don't know, a little disheartening and somewhat disturbing about some of the ladies' fathers. And
Mm-hmm.
you have a 13-year-old, right? You have a 13-year
Nah,
old,
she's 14. Yeah, she's
14.
14. I got her when she was a year and 4 months old.
Wow. So fill us in, man. Tell us what it's about, how you got into the situation, and what it is to be a father. Because when you a single father, you a father. So let us know what the deal is.
Yeah. Well, before I do that, let me give you some quick background. I was raised by, you know how they say you got like three running backs. They ran the ball by committee. Me and my brother were raised by committee. So, there was times my mother wanted to be a mother. There was times she didn't want to be a mother. But we spent a lot of our real important time with our grandmother. And what was weird about it is that my grandmother was my father's mother, not my mother's mother, my father's mother. Now my father was an asshole who wasn't around, doing what he wanted to do, and he wasn't a good father at all. Wasn't a good person. And even though we were living at his mother's house, I'm talking about for years. His sister was taking care of us and everything. And he wouldn't even come see us at his own mother's house. So, and then my mother would come through when she wanted to come through because she had to do her. So that's how we kind of grew up, and it was really my grandmothers and my aunts influence that made me really who I am today. So when I came around and irresponsible and I got the wrong person pregnant, I take full responsibility for laying down with the person I laid down with. So that's even to this day, even though my daughter's mother's a piece of work, I don't tolerate her bullshit, but I don't hate her neither because I was there, when she pushed my daughter out. You know what I mean? So I always recommend that to brothers. If you're cool enough to be, cool with your baby mama enough to where you could be at the, at the birth, do it because I think it helps, maintain a level of respect just for her motherhood. You know what I mean? Even though she's fucked up and she got an attitude and she's wrong and she's foul, she's still, the person that pushed your child out. So my daughter's mother, I really didn't want my daughter to be with her in the first place. I already knew she had issues before I had sex with her. But, of course, she took the baby home with her and, I just rolled with it. Paid the child support, paid for daycare, pretty much paid for everything. But she just kept dragging me through the mud, trying to get me to go to child support court, commit fraud, all kind of shit. There was a lot of violence at her house. Her mother used to fight her mother. So that's my daughter's mother and grandmother fighting like cats and dogs, police over there all the time. I got tired of it and just pretty much on a whim just went and got my daughter. That's how it started. Made it December 2004 and then made it official in 2006, through the courts. So my daughter's been with me since basically 2000, December 2004, pretty much 2005. And she's been with me ever since. And it's the greatest decision I ever made. I had a lot of businesses, I had a lot of things I was doing, but I had to put my dreams on hold to take care of my kid. I would say this though, is a gift and a curse, and it's a gift because you get to watch your kids grow and have your influence on them. The curse is everything's your fault, and you never get the praise. Like even bad mamas get praise. You know what I mean? Women
Yeah.
can walk around, well, I had labor. You know what I mean? They ain't did shit since they pushed the baby out. It's just a gift and a curse. But you know what? I embrace it. It fits me as a man anyway. I don't need a lot of pats on the back. But being a father, specifically raising a girl, raising a little girl in this crazy ass world, has been very interesting. Personally, it's made me more appreciative of the female species. You know what I mean? I was kind of a player. You know what I mean? Had a lot of game with me. Played a lot of mental games with women coming up, mostly because I had a lot of impatience for them and had some deep resentment for my mom. But raising my daughter made me understand the female more. because there's some things that now I see are just the way they, that's just how women are. You can't be, you know what I'm saying? They're not being stupid and silly and dumb. No, this is a female attribute that I really couldn't really respect or appreciate until I watched a little baby grow up to now, which is a young woman who's wearing gowns and going to rehearsals and does her own hair. You know what I'm saying? And, you know what I mean?
Mm.
It's been a not only a pleasure, man. It's been I can't even find the word really to say how proud I am. You know what I mean? But back to your conversation, since I have my background now, I think being fathers being in their kids' life is very important. What I've seen, and I'm not trying to put womanhood down, I think it's just a different energy. Mothers have such a power over their children that lasts forever. Like that, it doesn't change. Fathers, we have to be constantly in our kids' lives. You know what I mean? And I think when a father's in a kid's life, it gives their kids confidence. I'm talking about male and female. Men are important to boys for structure, confidence, discipline, and making sure that they stay on task, like they know how to work hard and stuff like that. But being a father to a female is also, instilling discipline, but also a source of pride. I noticed in my life, dealing with women who had fathers and women who didn't, the women who had fathers had more respect for themselves. The women who had fathers, even if they didn't have much common sense, they had a sense of who they were that the other girls just didn't have. In layman's terms, they were harder cookie to crack. And they weren't just out
Okay.
there like that. You know what I mean? Where girls who didn't have fathers, we can just pretty much, run through them because their minds are captured by, look, women are dreamers by nature. That's why they're so powerful. If a man has a dream, he has something he wants to do, and a good woman got his back, she'll make that shit happen. She'll do the
Mm-hmm.
things that she needs to do to support him and get things done and keep him on task. And if she believes in him, she believes. Women are natural believers, and if they have a fucked up dream mindset in their head of what the world is and what it should be, they're gonna go around making a lot of mistakes and doing a lot of dumb shit. But if they have a strong father in their life, they won't. 9 times out of 10, they don't have that silliness going on with them. So I don't want to hog up too much time, but that's just my
Yeah.
little 2 cents about the importance
Well,
of a father.
let me ask you this, brother Jay Sean, and then I'll get back to the unicorns. Being that you are a single father and you're raising a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like, as a father, do you feel like your daughter, well, I already know your daughter's going to have an advantage over females who don't have a father because she has you.
Right.
Okay. So can you see the differences of how your daughter is growing up as opposed to how she would be if she was like living, with the mother and the grandmother and it's a
Oh,
bunch
that's
of
a good
craziness
question.
going on?
Yeah, it's a good question. Me and my daughter's mother, man. My daughter's had a good life with me, but it could have been better. Her mother has visitation, so there's a lot of things going on. Like, let me break down her mother's relationship. My daughter's mother and the grandmother. They have this thing in their family where it's love and hate. They shit on each other, manipulate each other, they use each other, they fight each other, and they come back. And ever seen them ghetto families where they do each other wrong, but then they fighting for each other in the street? You know what I mean? It's that kind of shit.
Mm,
It's real. It's real unhealthy. And what her mother tries to do is because she has so much disdain for me, just in general. She went like when I bought my house last hating. You know what I mean? Just your daughter's living in a home and she's mad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just don't care about her daughters, more about how she feels. She's a real selfish person. So she has so much disdain for me that and she's jealous of me and my daughter's relationship that she tries to manipulate her the same way her mother did her. You know what I mean? Through buying her stuff one minute, next minute trying to kill her confidence, telling her like saying things to my daughter like you think you're too smart. You know what I mean? Just trying to chip at her to bring her down a notch because she's living a better life than she had. And you know um I would just say that, if I wasn't around, my daughter would be been in that house with those women. And there's a little girl, her niece, my daughter's mother's child, that was a little girl when my daughter was born. Very sweet little girl. And she's turned out to be pregnant, had a baby at 16, real ratchet,
Mm.
growing up in that house with all those women. You know what I mean? And so I got to see a young lady in that house versus my daughter growing up with me. So my daughter has a cousin who's ratchet as hell. You know what I
Wow.
mean? She got a brand new tablet for Christmas, and she went over to her mother's house to visit and all that. She has a photo of her cousin, and it's her cousin giving her the finger. You know what I mean? Like, just real ratchet stuff. And that's what my daughter would have grew up in if it wasn't for me. And what I would say to any man out there: go get your child, fight for him. Don't let your kid live in a situation like that. If she got a toxic man, I think the sister hit it nail on the head earlier. Sometimes you're better off not knowing one of your parents if they're really toxic and dangerous from both sides. But I will say for a fact, I'm 100% sure if I did not step, she would not be who she is right now. She's a real sweet girl, smart girl, strong, funny, confident, walks with confidence. And she's years ahead of the girls she's in school with right now. We sit in Applebee's and talk all the time about the shit that's going on in high school. She's in high school now. And these little girls is out here wilding. They're dumb as hell. And some of them hate on her because she's cool. She doesn't, give into the nonsense. And she doesn't play into the BS. And she's smarter than a lot of them. She's emotionally smarter than a lot of the girls. And she's well-rounded. She's
Wow.
settled. Where the other girls are just, you know what I mean? you know,
That's
you
that's
know what I
due
mean?
to you, man. That's all due to you, brother.
Yeah,
So,
but that's my responsibility. And, I will say that to women, and if you know a woman that is not paying that real attention and real respect of what the father brings to the table, even if he's not, he doesn't have to be that great of a guy. If he's just a stand-up dude who comes around, loves on his daughter, that shit means the world, man. And I hate when I see women pushing the guy away because they want to fight with him or because they want to hold rank. They want to hold court. You know what I mean? They want you to do things my way. Well, you're not paying me enough. All that shit, your kid's sanity. If your kid can turn out better, what you put on that? And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of it go the other way. So,
mhm. Well, I know you don't want this, man, but I'm gonna give this to you anyway, brother Jay Shine. Give you that anyway, brother.
hey, look, I'm gonna tell you like I did. I told my coworkers when I was working at the Pentagon, right? I was fighting for custody, and they were all patting me on the back. Yeah, you're a good man. You're doing your thing. Doing the right thing. I said, look, man, hey, holler at me when she's 18, 19, 20, and she's not on the pole. That's when it's done.
Mm,
All right,
mm,
until then, I'm still in the fight. It ain't done
yeah,
yet.
man.
So
I
And I
respected that, brother.
sort of chime
I
in
res-
on. I'm
Go ahead,
sorry,
Lady Kendra.
I'm probably interrupting your train of thought and the questions, but just to kind of speak to what
Oh, it's
Jay
okay.
kind of talking about, um, and being raised in what is being known as a coven of women, and one reason why I think that, because he spoke about mothers having a hold on their daughters, and I think that that is a function of biology, but in the Black community it takes several steps further than that, because of course a mother is going to have a bond because she's carrying the kid, she's physically attached to this kid upon conception, but in the Black community, something that happens between mothers and daughters that our Black men may or may not know because they grew up boys under her. And so they had a different kind of experience of her. It may not have been any better, but it was different. Um, with these sorts of Black women and their daughters, the first thing that they see is they see a younger, better version of herself. And instead of
Mhm.
that being a good thing, that's cause for competition.
Mhm.
So, number one, the mothers are jealous of their daughters, jealous of them. This is where all the knocking down of her confidence comes from. You think you cute, don't you? You ain't smart. You're not pretty. You're not. Instead of building her, they do what catty women do to other women, which is
Mhm.
try to tear them down. Um, I experienced it, so I'm telling you what I know. Um,
Mhm.
and also another thing that happens is in a Black community, uh, mother worship is a huge issue. It's a huge issue. They will use, whether they are religious or not, they will use masses religion to control the narrative between them and their children. Here's what I mean by that. You should honor your mother and father. I'm your mama. And you don't talk to me like that, and you don't blah, 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 blah. And they tie it to the child's sense of morality to view her in a positive light, even if she is presenting herself negatively to her child. So she can be abusing her kid, she can be uh, doing anything to her kid. And the concept is that the child is not supposed to feel negatively towards their mother. The fathers don't get this. This is just for the mom. Okay. And so when they tie it to the child's sense of morality, and if they're really religious, they tie it to God's pleasure or displeasure. So then this gives her carte blanche to do whatever she wants to do to this child. Okay. She can emotionally abuse, physically abuse, sexually abuse. Doesn't matter what she does. Okay. And if the child complains, then the narrative will be, well, you only get one mom. You should still love your mom. That's still your mom. And when I was going through it and coming up, I started being like, and what does that mean? If that was such an important relationship, why isn't she upholding it?
Mhm.
Why don't she value it? If it's an important relationship, why she don't value me then? Why I gotta value her, but I'm valueless in her eyes. So that's sort of growing up as a Black girl under your mom without your father's consistent supervision is a problem. My father was in and out. So while he was there, he unwittingly kept a rein on her. He didn't know he was reining her in, but he was. And when he was gone, she didn't have a check. So
Wow.
we caught hell when he wasn't around.
That actually that's a good segue, Lady Kendra, because that was going to be my next, round of questioning because I often say that your father doesn't just protect you from, what's outside the home. He also protects you from the witch within the home. Yeah, he protects you from her too. Because oftentimes, and I've seen this with my own eyes, that if a woman and a man is together, right, and they have a child, and that man is within that house or he has access to that child on a pretty regular basis, she will treat that child one way. But once that man is out of the picture, say he goes to jail or he runs off with another woman or whatever case may be, the way she treats the child changes as well. The way she treats that child will change depending on how much that man is around. I know that to be a fact. All right. So what I want to ask you ladies next is this. If if you don't have, and I guess I'm asking you ladies this as women, um, if you don't have your father, if the relationship with your father is somewhat lackluster and not what you thought it should be, that means that there was a pretty good chance that there was times that you didn't feel protected. And did that lack of protection by your father affect you growing into an adult? Did you feel unprotected?
Well, a lot of my story as we build every week. So, I felt unprotected. And that's when you find your father in the church. God becomes your father in place of you not having a physical one. You know what I mean? At least in my case, sometimes it was just me and my Bible when times got really hard. So yes, I definitely felt that I wasn't protected. Now, the funny part is I explained what went down with my daughter's father. He was Johnny on the spot right there. It's ready to step into some bullshit. So yeah, and that fleeting moment, it was like, oh, he really does love me. You willing to put your life on the line to protect me because I got hurt. But then, even now when I explained how he and I aren't talking right now, I don't feel protected. I even told him I'm still the child in this circumstance, no matter that I'm damn near 40. I'm still the child. You trying to use me as a go-between you two guys when you're my parents. I shouldn't even be involved in this conversation. It was like little Ming came back out because you're still the child, when you wipe all of this away, I'm still a kid and I shouldn't be in the middle of this. So once again, here you are not protecting me again. That's why I say I feel like this is it for me. I won't probably see him again until his funeral, because I'm done. Because this is like I gave you another chance and you let me down again, and you won't get the opportunity to then also let my children down as a result because they expect some sort of protection from their grandfather as well. So to answer your question, absolutely, I felt like I wasn't protected. 100%.
Mine was a mixture. Um, at overall, I felt protected by my dad because I knew for a fact that if some BS went down, my daddy going to the mat. He ain't gonna ask no questions. He not. It's done. It's a done deal. To the point where if some stuff happened to me, I could not tell my dad. Like if I didn't want that other person to meet their maker, I could not tell my father
Exactly.
because he's headed out. And I didn't want him to be like going to jail off some petty, you know what I'm saying? It was like that. It was just like, you know what I'm saying? Be careful. Like to this day, I'm careful about what I tell the men in my life. Cause my daddy's 68, he'll still do something to somebody.
Mhm.
Like real talk. My husband, same way. So growing up, overall, I felt protected by my father. At times when I was young and all the domestic violence was going on, no, I did not, because who was protecting me from him? And it wasn't even like he was like beating me, but I wasn't protected because I was made to be in that environment. So at times, no, I didn't feel protected, but once I kind of came to understand certain dynamics and basically life, I was like, yeah, dad is a G. Like daddy is a G. Like quick story, then I'm gonna let it go. Like when I first got married, my husband is like 6'2", and at that time he was a good 250 of muscle. My dad is barely 6 feet. Um, he pulled dude to the side and he was like, if my daughter come to me with any physical anything going on with her, she's crying, and she tell me you done did something to her, you ain't nobody gonna see you no more, and I'm not going to jail behind it. So you can do with that information what you will, and that's all I gotta say. And my husband remember that to this day. He's like, man, your daddy a G. He was like, and when your daddy said that to me, I believed it. He's like, I believed every word I said. You should have, because he was not playing with you.
Hey, I got a question.
Go ahead.
As you know, brother X, a lot of us on here know each other already. So,
Mhm.
um, is Cats on tonight?
Yeah, she's
I'm
here.
right here.
I got a question for Cats. Cats, You had a father and a stepdaddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Explain
Yes.
why. How did that work? How did that work out?
Um, well, at first my dad was not very happy about my mom getting remarried. Um, he had basically called her up one time and was like, "So you just gonna get married without asking my permission?" But my mom threw it up in his face that he had gotten married without her permission too.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, hold up. Let me back up. How old were your parents when your father and mother when they broke up? How old were you?
I think I was like 6 or 7 years old.
Wow. Okay. And then your mother got remarried, but your father was still around. Stepfather was there too, right?
My mom got remarried when we moved to North Carolina, which was like when I was like 11, 12 years old. But my father was around until he got remarried. See, and his wife didn't like me or my brother, so he kind of stayed away a little bit for a couple of years. But he did keep in touch, like via phone, and yeah, he was basically upset that she got remarried. Um, but my stepdad, he was okay. He was kind of strict, but you know.
Did you feel protected by him? Did you feel protected because he pretty
Oh,
much he became the male figure in your life, right?
yeah, yeah. I felt protected by him. As a matter of fact, there was one time me and my brother were getting bullied by these kids in the neighborhood, and my stepdad went out there and threatened to kick their asses. And I that surprised me because I didn't think he cared about us. I thought he only like really cared about my mom because at first he would only just interact with her, but you know, we all grew towards each other, basically.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna get to the old stepdad and baby daddy and all that stuff too. Um, Lady Classic, did you feel protected or unprotected by your male figure
Well,
father?
the thing is, so I had a very different experience from some of the ladies on the panel. Like I said, despite the fact that my parents were teen parents, they were very loving and attentive and whatever in my childhood. So from that, I didn't really need protection from either of them. If anything, what I kind of needed more protection of is my mom fell into the helicopter mom of the 90s. So I was, I guess, overprotected, overindulged as far as, oh, you're perfect. Oh, you didn't fail at this thing because you failed. It's because those people are evil monsters. They're just jealous of you. And so, on a lot of levels, I never really learned how to say push myself or, um, go past my limits. So anything I was good at and I'm good at now, I was just born good at those things. I never learned how to improve on anything. So I think maybe for me, with that way, when I was a child, my father wanted them to fail me at things, wanted me to do things that were hard and that I'd have to challenge myself at. And my mom, though, I would run to her and that I didn't have to. So I think if anything, like in my childhood, my younger years, that was definitely an issue. When I was growing up, I remember, we used to have dinner every other week on a Friday at my favorite restaurant. And my dad would tell me how when I was old enough to date at 16, that he would follow me around with a baseball bat. And I remember I used to like actually cry. I was so upset that, it was going to ruin my whole life and I was never going to find a husband under these conditions. And my life changed very drastically in a short period of time. And so by the time I was 15, 16, I had a parent who was now transitioning from male to female. And I was not even a priority or even a factor. I was basically a non-issue in both of my parents' lives for two separate reasons. But in my parents' case, it was because my sister's mother had taken her and run away with her. And, we were going through this whole court case to get her back and to not be arrested every time we saw her, my baby sister, who was 4 or 5 at the time. So it kind of like all of a sudden, all this protection I thought I was going to get and all the stuff I thought I was going to have to rebel against maybe kind of disappeared. So for me, it was more like losing that stricter parental figure for me was a matter of losing protection from the outside world. I didn't have, protection against men anymore, or, against bullies, or against, I don't know, just anything, anything that would come up in high school. I no longer had those things, but I had them up until, maybe 8th grade. So I was kind of really unprepared to not have the protection. And I do think that it is incredibly important at all kind of stages of life, even in adulthood, to have that. Because, getting it back 10 years later, when I was about 25, has been so incredibly important to me. And I'm so reliant on having that. Even though I'm an adult, I take care of myself, I'm married and whatever, but having that, even in like a, 5 steps removed kind of way, is just, it's so critical.
Well, let me ask y'all this. Now, we can all agree that children need fathers. I mean, I don't think there's no disagreement there. And fathers are a factor, just plugging the old show title. Fathers are a factor in children's lives. But oftentimes within Black society, because we talk a lot about, we talk about Black society up on TPOT. A lot of times there is no father. Okay. Of course, there's someone who gave some sperm up, but there's no father after that. And I think that many times, due to bad choices, due to knee-jerk reactions, due to lack of planning, due to irresponsibility, two people get together, copulate, a child is conceived, and this child is conceived with no foresight, no planning, no insight, no nothing for this child, right? Now, my contention is this. I believe that one of the best things a woman can do for a child is picking a decent father. Now, not that I'm trying to shuck responsibility one way or the other, but you would think, being that throughout the past 4, 5, 6 decades, women would understand that when you don't have that foresight to protect yourself from an unwanted pregnancy by a guy who may be crazy or just no good, or he's a jailbird, or he's on drugs, whatever the case may be. If you happen to copulate with this guy and he disappears, the women are getting stuck with the kids. Let's be clear. When you hear baby mama, and this woman has 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, 8 babies, 9 times out of 10, those 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 babies live with her. It's not like they're all going off to stay with the different baby daddies. That's an outlier if it's happening. These women are getting stuck with these children. So you would think that over the course of the past few decades that we would see a change. We would see women saying, hey, look, we're getting stuck with these children. Okay. The dudes are going off and squirting babies in other places. And we're getting stuck with the 4 and the 5 and the 6 and the 7 babies. But you're not really seeing a curve. You're not seeing a decline. In some places, like in the inner cities, the illegitimate rate of children being born is actually increasing a little bit. It's spiking a little bit. So what makes you ladies think is keeping these women from, if not planning children wiser, picking better fathers for these children wiser?
Oh man. I mean, you want to go first, or should you heavy hitter first?
I'll let you take it, sister.
I was perfectly willing to let you go first. Okay. Man. Okay. It's a lot to the question because I'll take the premise that these children are being birthed and reared by various sperm donors accidentally. Let's take that premise. If we took that premise that hey, I'm the one raising kids. They in my house. It's a struggle. It's hard. It's just difficult. You know, um, let me try to see if I can make better decisions, or if it's too late for me to make a better decision, let me make sure that my daughter and my sons are not doing the same thing. Now, the decline would happen if it was all accidental, but it's not an accident. These women who continue to have multiple children by multiple men who actually encourage, and yes, I have seen it in the neighborhood. I have overheard conversations. I have been aghast at certain conversations of these women encouraging their daughters to do the same. Girl, you can get on up out of my house and you can head on down to the aid office, girl, and if you have you a baby too, they'll give you such and such stamps and this. It's a game. It's a game. It's a hustle. This is why there's no decrease, because why would you decrease a hustle? It's not as hard as we would imagine, because the majority of these women, not everybody, but the majority of these women are not actually acting as mothers. Just because you birth somebody out, that don't make you a mama. All right. So a lot of these kids in the inner cities, in the lowest income places, things like that, these kids are being left alone. They're being left in squalor. You ever surf around on Facebook and Instagram, and these chicks be having hella selfies, and they nails done, they hair done, they face done, they this, but the in the background they ain't got no furniture. They ain't got no furniture, but they got a bunch of kids. How you ain't got a couch? How you ain't got bunk beds? You ain't got no rug on the floor, or worse than that, the background is squalor. It's just look like they live in the garbage. I've actually literally seen Instagram photos of a chick that, man, she got a hourglass figure, and her weave is laced up tight, but her house looked like a landfill, and she thought it was okay to post that on Instagram. And then the saddest part is you have dudes still liking that picture. They still will give it a thumb or whatever you're doing. Because I don't have an Instagram account, but I do see Instagram pictures posted, like on other people's Facebook, this and that, and then when I had a Facebook as well. So it's a hustle, brother Xavier. This is why there's no dip. Because if I just like when the drug selling game was on and popping, yeah, it was a lot of people doing it because it was money to be made. It didn't matter about the repercussions. It was money to be made. They call themselves surviving, quote unquote. They found a hustle. They found a hustle that men can't do. This is why it's a whole bunch of women doing it. The men can't do this hustle because they don't have wombs. They're not the gatekeeper of the family. You know what I'm saying? The women are, but we're failing at collectively we're failing at that job, and we've turned it from something that builds a community and builds a civilization into something that I can hustle with.
Next up.
Well,
Kendra, oh, oh, go ahead.
okay.
Mm-mm.
Thank you,
I'll wait.
Ming. So when I was in high school, their little motto was, well, where excellence happens. What they should have named it was where teen pregnancy happens, because there were a lot of teen mothers, and they were all, most of them were single mothers. And what I originally thought was that a lot of them were getting knocked up, not really considering who the father was because they wanted a baby to not leave them, because they figure, well, their mother wants them out the house at 18, their father wasn't around, and because they didn't have the best parents, they assumed the boy who knocked them up wasn't going to be around. So they say, well, I'll just get pregnant and the baby can't leave me. But now, as I get older, I'm starting to see, yeah, a lot of them are getting knocked up because they want the free stuff from the government. But yeah, that's about it.
Another thing I want to add to that, cats. What I've seen is that a lot of women feel like it gives them their womanhood too. They get their own apartment, or even if they live with their moms, they still can come and go as they please because they're grown women now. When they had that baby, it seems to be like a shortcut, not just only a come up. It's a shortcut to womanhood.
Like
I'm a mom now.
like a rite of passive
That's
type,
true.
a rite of
That's
passage
that's
type of thing.
actually really true, because the truth of the matter is, having my daughter as young as I did and then going to school, I was considered an independent student, so it went off of my income. I don't have a job, it's zero. I got a full ride and a refund check. But the problem is you don't see them do that. They don't find the silver lining in the cloud and turn lemonade, out of the lemons that they have. Instead, like Kendra said, they just continue because it's almost like a hustle. So it continues to increase because of emotional immaturity and, white daddy. If I can continue to have all these children and you're going to increase my food stamps and you're going to give me a bigger apartment because girls and boys can't stay in the same room together as far as Section 8 is concerned. And then once they get to school age, they go on to school, so I have an all-day babysitter. Then when they come home, I'm letting them eat from the gas station flaming hots with meat and hot cheese. They basically raising themselves. I'm still off at the club, doing what I want to do, having more kids. And then the lack of maturity emotionally is not allowing me to see when I don't have proper discernment when I'm dealing with these dudes to decide who's telling me the truth and who isn't, because nobody has taught me anything. I'm stunted in my growth because the coven of women who raised me are also stunted in their growth. They don't have anything to teach me if they're not illiterate. Literacy is a huge problem in the Black community. You'd be surprised how many
Yes,
people
yes.
you know now who are illiterate. I mean, functioning illiterate that can't even read or write, and
Damn,
you don't
nigga,
even know
keep
it.
flowing.
So I think that's what it is. It's just like, it's a side story, but just to tell the difference. My daughter, her friend, got beat up by her boyfriend while they were in school. He hit her so hard on one side of her jaw, it broke the other side too. She walking around here with her mouth wired. And my daughter was telling me her mother is young like me. Me and my daughter is only 16 years apart, and so is Deja and her mom. She said, but y'all are different because her mom's still out at the clubs and everything else, and you act like a real mother. And that really touched me, because as you're coming up, you realize and see that I'm acting like a real mother. I had a lot of excuses. I could have been the victim if I wanted to be, but I chose not to be. I took what was a perceived negative and then decided to make it positive and not continue to be a statistic, because I don't want your food stamps and your living, because I'm talking about my own pride and ego and self-preservation and all the things that are important to me. So the problem, I think, is twofold. The women who aren't out here trying to to scam. They're just dumb as hell. And then the other women are scamming. And that's really it.
Lady Ming is hardcore, man. I'm telling you, she's hardcore.
I'm
Nah,
not gonna
Uh,
say
see,
it.
man.
hardcore. Next up.
She really is.
Jesus.
Um,
And
okay,
if
so for me, I'm going to approach this from a slightly more psychological avenue. So basically, what you have in evolutionary psychology is this thing where basically, and people have heard of evolution and survival of the fittest and stuff like that, and they think about it as far as individuals and consciousness and stuff like that. So I consciously want to win and fight, and they're actually more talking about the genes. Genes themselves, independent of the human being, want to be able to survive and reproduce and pass themselves on. Each individual gene wants to do that. So, what you see actually in evolutionary history through humans is when people, and you see it now as well, when people are, relatively comfortable, financially stable, secure, they have, food and, parents and shelter and everything's good in life, they tend to wait until later on in life, wait until they find a good mate to settle down with and have their children with, and they have less children. And this existed forever and a day ago, and it exists today. You can see it with the people, and it also goes across race boundaries. So it doesn't matter what race we're talking about here. In general, when you see well-off families and kids who were born and raised in well-off families, you see this trend. They wait until later on in life to have children. They have less of them. They wait until they find a stable, good, secure partner, and until they're able to take care of children. So on the flip side of that, what you see with poverty and you see with people who are living in rough conditions where, maybe food isn't sure, safety isn't sure, you see this trend where they tend to have children earlier, have a lot of them. They put very little parental investment themselves into the children, and they also put very little investment into actually selecting mates. So normally what they're selecting are traits that involve testosterone. And if he could get into your pants and 50 other people's pants, then he likely has good genes as far as attractiveness. So it's good to pass down attractive genes to your children because they're going to be more likely to be able to reproduce as well. So what you see in poverty, again, everywhere, is that children, first of all, they actually literally develop sexually earlier when they are in poverty versus when they are born and raised in secure places.
Yeah,
And this
I read that somewhere. Yeah, I read that somewhere. Go ahead.
exactly, and
Continue.
it's actually a life strategy, and it's not, when I say life strategy, I don't mean something that you're consciously choosing. Your body, I think it's like by the age of 5 or 6, your life strategy is already set biologically. So biologically, girls are going to start developing earlier. They're going to get their periods earlier. They're going to be sexually precocious earlier, and boys as well. And so this kind of sets in. So you see that trend. As much as we obviously have so many things that involve like our culture and things that are being passed down and examples that are being set for us, you also have these biological imperatives. That's why if you take an 8-year-old out of these conditions and put them somewhere great, they're still going to follow the life strategy that was already set in them. So ultimately, the only way that you're going to really fix this issue is to take that baby out of that condition and put them into a position where, financially, emotionally, mentally, food, everything is set and secure and stable for them. And you would literally see that kid would break the cycle automatically. And it's not, and likewise, if you were to take a kid who was 8 years old from a relatively rich, stable society, where everything is good, and put them into the place where they're hungry every day, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they still would wait later to have children, have less children, wait till they found a developmentally stable partner, et cetera, et cetera. So you kind of see that. And it's like we've got to deal with obviously the things on the surface, but we got to realize we have a lot of biological training and biological programming that we have to fight against.
Okay. Well, let me go here. Um, you often hear the term, black folks, we throw, we are always, that's just us. We are always throwing the term baby daddy around, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I said before, a lot of times baby daddy ain't available. Now we can all agree that we need to be more responsible sexually. Women need to be on some type of birth control. Brothers need to wear condoms. We can all agree on that. But if we're talking about fathers, we're past that. 9 times out of 10, we're past that. So if a woman has a child or children, and she has a child or children that the father just doesn't give a damn about the kids. He didn't want them. He's living on the other side of the world. He doesn't even care what happens to him. Do you believe that a woman should be trying to seek some type of male influence for the children? If not the girls, the boys at least, whether it be a uncle, grandfather, a karate coach, a soccer coach, football coach. Do you believe that if a woman has no access to, or should I say the children's father has no access to those children for whatever reason, do you think that it is imperative for that woman to try to, do you think the onus is on her to try to get some type of male influence in that child's life, especially her sons? Her daughters are a different story, but her sons. Do you ladies believe that the onus is on her to do that?
Well, if he has nothing to do with the child, then it would ultimately be her responsibility, regardless of whether he's he wants anything to do with the child or not, because she's the one who has the child. So yes, she would have to find some sort of male influence, whether it be a grandfather, an uncle, somebody in the neighborhood, or a teacher or somebody. As long as they're a good influence, of course. They can't just be some random dude who is doing God knows what.
Yeah, it can't be the brother who just hangs outside the bodega with the beer in the brown bag. It can't be him.
Right.
don't get him. Next up.
I'll just say 100% she has an obligation to find, especially the sons, some positive male role models. I mean, that's pretty much the answer of it. 100% she does. And she's doing a disservice to the kid, to herself, to the community, if she doesn't. As a parent, we have a responsibility to churn out productive members of society. Whatever that looks like is different, but that's ultimately the goal. The one too, I didn't want to create no type of cycle, and I breathed a sigh of relief when my daughter got past 16 and wasn't pregnant. Now at 22, still not pregnant. But we have a responsibility to find them some male role models. I mean, even though my kid's father is in their life, my husband, we still have them in other things in order for them to be able to get other skill sets and also learn how to work in the world with other males and male role models and things like that. We have them in jujitsu. Those are other male role models, our family and stuff like that. I think we 100% you have an obligation to. Everybody does. The village does. We all supposed to be trying to seek out male role models for everybody, male and female.
Agreed.
So that's it.
Next up.
Well, I think that obviously, definitely, yes. And it's not just for sons, although obviously, I mean, because we are seeing the evidence of how detrimental it is when men or boys rather do not have male role models in their lives, because as a result they have no idea how to be men. And like we think about little cute things like, oh well, he mimics daddy on how to shave, or daddy teaches him how to tie a tie. But there's a lot of unspoken things that little boys mimic their dads about, just the way to handle a situation. How do you stand up to confrontation? How do you deal with that? Et cetera, et cetera. How do you even charm a woman, not just sexually, but just, a woman at the gas station. So that way, she's okay, you're 5 cents off or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Just, so there's that example, but there's also the thing that little girls need from daddies, which is to learn what love and respect is from a man who is not looking for any type of sexual compensation from you. Because if you know what that feels like and you're getting that, there's no hole in your life, no void in your life you're trying to fill, then you're not going to be going out there and falling for every little line from some dirty little boy who is just trying to, stick his thing inside of you. So I think that, on both levels, if your child doesn't have a father, the father is not going to be present, or, God forbid, knock on wood, your child's father passes away or something. It is your responsibility to make sure that there is someone else in your life, be it an uncle, a close friend, a godfather. That's what godfathers are supposed to be there for, to step in and fill that role that the father isn't filling, on all levels. So that way, this child has a role model and a mentor for how a man should treat each other, how a man should treat the world, how a man should treat a lady, so on and so forth. And both little boys and little girls desperately are lacking that and need that.
Hmm. I think Lady Kendra, she said she had to step away. I don't know if she's
No,
back yet.
I can
Oh,
answer now because I
okay.
still got to find somewhere to charge this phone, but I can answer this question. Um,
Okay.
um, yeah, she has the responsibility to secure a proper male figure for her kid. If the father is, for whatever reason, not around, like Ming was saying, there's a responsibility to produce productive members of society, because when they leave your house, the rest of us got to deal with them. So that kind of ties into the mentality of a lot, not all, but a lot of single moms, that maintaining children is the same thing as raising them, and it's not. If you go to work and you paying the bills and all of that, welcome to adulthood. Grown people do that. They go to work, they pay bills. If they have children, they feed them, house them, that sort of thing. So you're not going to get a cookie for doing what you're supposed to do. That, however, is child maintenance, nothing to do with raising the kid. So in order to raise the child properly, you need to introduce a male figure into their life. You do not need, I repeat, do not need to sleep with that guy in order for him to fulfill this role. He doesn't have to want to sleep with you. So he can be like the soccer coach or whomever. He doesn't have to sleep with you, okay? In order to be a role model, a positive male role model in your child, or if we want to say specifically your son's life.
Agreed. Agreed. Do you ladies, well, let's go here. Let's go ahead and jump. I was gonna wait till the end to ask this, but we can go ahead and talk about it right now. I'll just think of some other questions for the end. As women, you're all women, adult women, right? And I'm sure many of you have dealt with, more than one man in your life. What men do you ladies believe? What do you believe is a man suited for fatherhood? What should be the qualifications? If you're going out as a woman, you're going out as a woman, right? And you are looking to, I don't know, find a man to marry, or hopefully a man is trying to find you to marry, and you think about the father of your children, what kind of man should that particular person be? Anyone who wants to go can.
I think a man who is very protective should be would make a good father. I also think one who is consistent. I get tired of these parents who will say they're going to do one thing and then don't do it. So, you know, somebody who's going to stand firm in what they say to the child and not just, let up or, slack off.
Next up.
Okay, well, for me at least, my whole life I was always dating with the purpose of marriage, and I do mean my whole life. Like, yes, dating at 14 and 15 was all about us getting married later. So, with that being said, I was looking for husband qualities right off the bat, and one of the things that I was really careful about was dating people who were from broken homes, because I found that, unlike myself, the average person from a broken home did not have both parents, did not have the influence of both parents. And so they weren't as solidly minded on family as I was. Even if they weren't really quite sure how to accomplish that in a way that I was able to more want to put both my parents under the same roof and everything and whatever, and I kind of got that more. So from that perspective, I think it's a lot less about looking for a man who has particular qualities to be a good father, and more, why aren't you looking for a man who you want to build a partnership and a life with and a family with and spend the rest of your life being able to do that and grow with them to have children with? So in my case, there was no way I was having children before marriage. I was with my husband for 8 years before we got engaged. Well, no, I guess before we got married, because we're coming up on 10 years in March that we've been together. And even with us living together, making future plans, knowing we were going to have children and blah, 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 even with the ring on my finger, I was not trying to have kids before I got married. Because at the end of the day, me having the same name as my husband, us being able to create a team and a family together was far more important to me than the individual qualities either I have or he has, because we're going to be able to complement each other. And where I'm weak, he'll be strong, and vice versa. And that's really what a kid needs. And really, to be the best mother or father that we can be, what we really need is each other, and we need to be able to be a unit together, and we are stronger together, and we're going to be stronger together at raising our children as a unit than we ever would have been separately, even if we have the greatest qualities.
Next up.
This is a really tough question, because you can come out with a lot of different things that make up a good father. Even some of the worst fathers have some good qualities, in how they choose to parent. I think that most importantly, it has to be someone who understands who they are and also who they are not, and who they want to be and who they want their children to be, and how that looks. Like, is it skewed? Is it it's some, I'm getting fumbled over my words because I have so many attributes that I want to say, but it's really important to understand your story, even if as being a parent, period. If you don't quite understand your story and how you became who you've become, you don't know what to then disseminate to the children you're trying to raise, whether it's whether it's taking what you've gotten and giving it to them or extracting what you have and making sure they don't also have those same qualities. I think in order to be a good father, you have to have some level of compassion. Um, it, it- and I know that may sound crazy to say a man compassion, especially raising kids, especially raising boys, but it's important because you see a lot of parents who raise children as if they never were children themselves. And you can't do that because then you lack insight into what's actually transpiring right in front of your face because you've decided to recreate who you are instead of just being who you are. um, I think a good father is also someone who is steadily trying to evolve, and the reason I say that is because children are always evolving, and you have to be able to evolve with them and be able to meet them where they are sometimes. And if you're still stuck where you are, or you can't get there with them, and they'll find what it is they're looking for, and you want to hope they come to you first. But they're not going to come to you first if they don't feel like you'll understand them when they finally do come to you. I think a good father also has to be a good husband, brother, and son as well, because your sons and your daughters are looking at you. The girl is looking at you to decide on what type of man she should love, and the son is looking at you to decide on what type of man he should be. So how you choose to relate to the opposite sex in your world is very, very important. Um, I think a good father also has to have something that he wants to pass down. He can't just be out here all willy nilly, going with the flow. That's not what I mean when I say evolve. I mean, you need to have some nuggets, some kernels of truth that you found or were passed down to you to also be able to pass down and instill in your children. And I'm really speaking because I'm thinking about my husband and my sons, especially as it pertains to our Black boys. You have to be able to pass them something down, something that gives them pride when the world is trying to knock them down, that they can rely upon and look back on, and they can then see that and see their father and their grandfather and their lineage, something that makes them prideful. And you have to also pass down skills, and life skills. You have to be able to teach them how to do things, how to take care of themselves, how to be good boys, good men, good fathers, good husbands, good brothers to their siblings, or so on and so forth. So I think it's one of those things that's fluid sometimes, but then there's some things in it too that are steadfast and need to be there. You have to be a rock. You have to be a rock. I'm gonna just stop right there because I'm rambling.
Okay.
And can I add to that?
Go ahead, Jay Sean.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I think what you're saying is dead on, and what I would say is that women have to help. And what I mean by that is, like for instance, child support. The man's giving money is taken out of his check, or he's ordered to give a certain amount of money to a woman, whether it's every month, every 2 weeks, whatever, and he has no say on how that money's being spent. In essence, he's not a father. If I can't choose as a man how that money is being applied to that child's life, then I'm not being a father. And it's so bad between Black men and Black women right now, where women don't reflect their behavior, even tell you what they've done with the money, let alone ask you and include you. And what's funny is that when you have shared custody, or when you have custody with the kid, the women are always telling you, you need to include me, you need to include me, you need to empower me, you need to empower me, you need to respect me, you need to respect me. But there's simple things that sisters can do to respect, and in a lot of ways, not enhance but support the fatherhood. Just like we support the motherhood. If I get to make decisions in my own child's life, look, we dealing with broken families right now. Look at Cat's situation. His father, her father felt the way he felt. I know why he felt the way he felt. There's another man calling shots over his children. That's a hard pill to swallow for any man. Can you get away from it? If you remarry, the mother remarry and the kids are with the mother, there's nothing you really can do about it. But we can have what you can do though, as women feel like they don't have to run things by us. This is my child. This is my house. Oh, I remarried. I got a new man. I can do what I want to do, and there's no respect So what you're going to get is two things going to happen. One or two things is going to happen. You're going to have a man withdraw because he don't want to be disrespected, or you're going to have conflict, and that conflict can play out in many ways. It can be passive aggressiveness. It can just be straight out argument. You know, you can start doing slick shit. You know what I'm talking about. It can play out in a lot of different ways. But I think women have to help. You know, especially in this Western society, not that's constructing fathers anymore. If you look at how things are done, a woman can have child after child by different men after different men, and all the money comes to her. She's holding court. Back in the day, the man had the farm, he had the children, and if he gave a woman a bill of divorce, he'll marry another woman and bring another woman in the house, and she'll give him more babies. It's flipped. The woman has the house, she has children by this guy, that guy, that guy, and everybody's giving her a check, and she's doing what the hell she want to do with the money, and no one's being able to be a father. The main part of being a father is being able to make decisions, and if that can't happen, what kind of fatherhood are we talking about?
Exactly. I agree. Totally. I think we was at Lady
I
Cookie.
agree with everything that Ming said, everything that Jay Shine just got through saying. Fatherhood has been reduced down to your money. And again, maintenance of your kids is not raising your children. It's just not. Um, if he, like he said, if child support is being done, then the father needs to be consulted about his children's welfare. He just needs to be. I don't care if you go get married to another man. Don't care. Because that other man is not the father to those kids or that kid. So the father needs to be talked to, consulted about the welfare and the trajectory of his children's lives, regardless of whether or not you and him could make it as a couple. But to more pointedly answer the question, qualities of a good father. Hmm. When you're a woman trying to pick who could potentially be a good dad, that starts with trying to pick who could potentially be a good husband. Because if you lack discernment in one area, you'll lack it in the other. And when had started dating, and I was like 17 or whatever, my little secret countdown was if I'm dating this dude, and if he don't pop the question to me within 8 to 12 months, the relationship shall be over. I don't care how well we were getting along. Because you just not going to test drive me off this dealership lot and run these miles up and then bring me back to the dealership and don't do a down payment. You just not going to do that to me. I'm all depreciated in value. You're just not going to do it. So the aim of the dating was always to marriage, because I really don't see a point outside of that. Just having fun and kind of doing what you want to do, that doesn't work as a woman. I don't care who tried to make it work. I don't care who says it works. It doesn't. As a female, that does not work well for you. You cannot just, you can, I mean, you can technically, but you're not going to end up in a good spot. So when I was looking for what would make good husband material, the what would make good father material played right into that, because I assumed that I would be having somebody's kids. So he had to, first of all, be stable. Okay. He had to be financially stable. He had to be emotionally stable. He had to be mentally stable. Had to be stable. One thing that I chose not to do, I chose not to ignore red flags. If somebody is waving a red flag at you, accept it. I don't care how fine you thought he was, or how good he laying it down in the bedroom. I don't care what he doing. If he's got a red, if he's standing on the air, you know how they stand on the runway with the lights. If he doing that with a red flag, you better stop and you better just turn it around and just leave him where he's standing with a goodbye, sir. You have a nice day, and I'm gonna head on out. Um, he has to have some amount of nurturing to him. He can be hard. He can be a disciplinarian. He can be a authoritative type of man, but he needs to have a softer side somewhere. Um, I think it's important to see how he interact in his family. Did he get raised in a two-parent home? If not, I mean, I'm not gonna just discriminate and say he's gonna be a bad dad because he didn't necessarily have a dad or whatever. But how does he interact with other people in his family, at work, his friends? How is he interacting with these people? What is he doing? Do he fly off the handle real bad for nothing? Is he really, really passive all the time? Is he even keeled? You know, you have to start watching how he move through his life. How is he moving? What do other people say about him? You know what I'm saying? How do other people regard him? And then you might actually want to see him around some kids. Is he real awkward around kids? Like, do kids give him a wide berth? Like, you know what I'm saying? You might want to see him interact with some kids if at all possible. So as a woman, when you are attempting to find the potential good husband / good father, you can't make a guarantee, but you can certainly do your due diligence on who this man is, because he needs to be a good person before he can be a good husband, a good father, and a good anything else.
Okay. Well, let me say this. I believe that, and this is just my opinion, I believe that a man, when it comes to a man and he's trying to build a family, I believe he carries the 2x4s and the timbers that build the house of his legacy. And that being said, if he chooses, if he wants to be a father, that brother is probably going to be the best father for your child. Wants to be a father is probably going to be the best father for any child. Also, I believe that not that fathers and men bring balance. Children, as they build their legacy, I also believe they bring balance to women. And I'm going to tell you why. We spoke earlier, and I said that when a man and a woman are together in the same place, and that man has normal access to that child, regular access to that child will be treated a particular way. Once that man is long gone, the child will be treated differently. I believe that when a man is there and a man and a woman are together, that allows the child to not only see a decent interaction between male and female, it also causes the woman to behave in a particular way where that child is concerned. Because I'll say again, I don't believe that a father just protects his family from what's outside the house. He also protects the children from the witch that lives in the house. So she is going to be a different person if there is a man in that house. There's no doubt about it. Unless he's just a dragged down, flat-footed simp, he is going to do whatever he needs to do to protect his children. All right. And her being a woman, she's going to know that. So she's going to adjust. No matter what she's got going on in her head, she's going to adjust to that factor, to that father factor. She's going to adjust to it. Like I said, I've seen it. I've seen how women, how they've interacted with children when the man lived there. But when that man left, When he left, they treated those children totally, totally different. All right. I heard about it. I heard about it from my ex. All right. My kids told me when I moved out, lots of things changed. All right. Lots of things change because, see, I say again, a father brings balance not only to the children, he brings balance to the household because certain things aren't going to be tolerated when a father is part of that family, when a father is part of that household. Okay, a line will be drawn, and that line will usually protect those children. Um, I also want to say this. I have sat here tonight and I have listened to the unicorns talk. And I have to admit that I have never heard women talk about their fathers the way you ladies have talked about your fathers tonight. And some of your stories weren't stories of grandeur and glory. Some of your stories were really, really tough to hear. But what I also heard that now that you ladies are adults, that your relationship with your father is somewhat better than it was when you were younger. Did I mishear that? Or now that you ladies are adults, your relationship is somewhat better? Is it more even kiln with your fathers now? Did I hear that right?
Well, you heard me tell you that we fell out it's been about a year now, so I'm not talking to him.
Oh, so it's just like it
I mean,
was
but I
back
will
then.
say this: in the 6 years that when we got back in communication, we talked often. We could sit on the phone for like 4 or 5 hours just shooting the shit because he's just that type of guy, like friends. It's not until this whole child support thing, and he think I got more power than I do, and he feels that if it's not being done, it's because I'm not asking. He put me in a real messed up situation, and then when he still showed me that he lacks emotional maturity by sending that picture back, I just decided, you know what, I'm done because now I have to protect my children.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where we are right now. However, I will say this: me and my half brother kind of fell out over some bullshit he did, and I found out once me and my half brother made up that my father told him, you need to go and make it right with Ming. You guys are closer than that, and you out of line. So even though he and I aren't talking, oh
Okay.
wow, behind the scenes he actually said that, huh?
Okay. So I think it was Lady Kendra and Lady Catston who said that their relationship. They have a relationship with their father now, right? Now that you ladies are adults.
Yes. My father still will come to my house and hang out. Um, we'll play dominoes together. We'll go bowling and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
So you guys have a relationship, like
yeah, like we're
father.
friends.
Okay. 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 That's good, Lady Kendra. And you said you and your pops are pretty cool now too, right?
Oh man, telling you, that's the homie. That's the OG, triple OG homie. That old man is my dude. Like we two peas in a pod. We look alike. We act alike. It's really kind of ridiculous. But yeah, we got a real tight relationship.
Okay. Lady Classic, I think your situation was a little different, right?
Well, yeah, because my parents were great parents when I was a child. They're great parents now. There's just a 10-year period, basically adolescence to my early to mid 20s, that I just didn't have parents. Like they just both disappeared for completely different reasons. And it wasn't, necessarily, I think, intentionally to be bad parents to me. They were just caught up in their own things and kind of forgot about me, I think, a little. And I think, part of that is being teen parents. When you get to my age, which I'm 33 now, you're not really prepared to have a 15-year-old. You are prepared maybe to have a 7-year-old, but not a 15-year-old. So I think that, that probably did also have something to do with it. But I will say that even looking at my relationship, and I mean, you think about how many things are really radically different. I was a daddy's girl and whatever, and now, at 33, or even in my mid 20s, I went from having to figure out how to have a daddy to how to have this other female parent in my life that I claim because it's important to me that both my biological parents raised me despite all the obstacles and whatever. So, and even given all of that craziness, I will say that me and my parent, like that, me and her are on like such amazing terms. Like, there's just all the teenage angst, all the childhood angst, all of the firmness from being raised and, not being able to be your kid's friend and whatever is all gone. So we can just be friends now. And we're so similar as people. So, like, that is like the one person in the world who gets me from me just saying a few words. So,
Okay. Well, let me do this. Y'all, you ladies know that when we first got together, I said that you ladies will be the ones who can maybe drop some pearls of wisdom on younger women, because you ladies you have understanding of things, you're adults, you have a different point of view than the regular rank and file female. So what would you tell a young woman, right, that doesn't have any children yet, and she might be on the cusp of making a very bad decision with the dudes, all right, that she's finding herself around.
Oh, that's a good question. Uh-oh.
But but she hasn't had any children yet. What would you tell this young woman as far as who she should be around, the decisions she should be making with her body, and so on and so forth? What would you ladies say to this young woman? Whoever wants to go first can.
How young is she?
Let's say 18. Let's say 17, 18.
I tell her to wait, live a little before she decides to just hook up with somebody and have a child, especially since, she wouldn't be mature enough to take care of a child, really. If she's with a certain guy, like if I see her getting serious with a certain guy, I'd probably suggest to her to use some sort of birth control to just take things slowly. Yeah.
I would
Next.
definitely tell her to slow your roll. You're trying to grow up fast. It's going to still be there when you get there. Take this time to sharpen your discernment. Do not be a person that life happens to and you have to learn all your lessons that way. Look around you and pay attention to what's going on, and from there be able to deduce the lesson that you should be learning from that circumstance. If nothing else, sharpen your discernment and understand who you are and why you're making the decisions that you're making. If it's because you think it's going to fill a void, it's not. If you think it's because you're going to keep him, you won't. If you think it's going to make your life easier, it doesn't. So, if anything, figure out who you are, what imprint you want to have on this world, how you're going to go about doing it, because mama's baby, daddy's maybe. You will always be with that child. And if that child is not born for the right reasons, you can mess up your life and also mess up the life of someone else. And that's very, very heavy. So that would probably be what I tell her with direct eye contact.
Mhm.
well,
Next up.
I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that people think about having children, and one of the problems is that a lot of them just don't think at all. Um, and just that whole, just even the whole concept that was just being brought up about the fact that it's like, oh well, you think you might be able to keep him with it, or that it might make things easier in your relationship, or just something. Obviously children don't do that. Children in and of themselves are the most thankless job and the most thankless relationship you will ever have. So with that being said, if you are thinking about taking on something like, I don't know, parenting to fix some other problem in your life, that should definitely be a red flag to yourself about yourself. That it's time for you and yourself to sit down and have a conversation and try to figure out what is going on mentally and emotionally within you that you need to resolve and you need to put to bed and put to rest, so that way you aren't trying to find solutions to your problems that clearly aren't solutions, that are actually major dysfunctions, are just going to add even more distress to your life, and are going to cause you to take that much longer for you to get to a place in life where you're actually healed and you've actually resolved whatever your past issues are. Many of us have many issues, and especially being a Black woman in North America in general, especially in America. There's a lot of things that we go through, a lot of things that subconsciously and consciously we have to deal with and fight through. If you've gotten to a place where you are in early adulthood and you haven't succumbed to many of the statistics, from having a criminal record to having a child, being on welfare and whatever, but you still have that dysfunctional thinking pattern, it's likely because something happened to you. I don't know whether it would be abuse, whether it would be abandonment, whether it would be fear. Something's happened to you, and it's time for you to sit down and work through that. If it's something you can do individually and work on and make changes for yourself, then do that. If you need some type of therapy or counseling to help you get to that place, there's no shame in doing that. Make sure that you are taking the time and energy and effort now while you're young, while you don't have those responsibilities and you're not married and you don't have children yet. So it's to focus on you and be a little bit selfish to get yourself to a place where, because once you get to that place and you're good and you're whole and you're complete, that's when everything can fall into place and you can find that husband and you guys can get together and have those children and you can have that happy household, and you won't be doing all those things to try to fill a hole that will just be the natural next step in your life. So that's what I would tell her.
Next up.
Man, that's a deep question, because I actually had to have a similar conversation with a young lady about 17. And it's interesting to say these things to a young woman, because I don't call them kids at that age. They're just young adults. And to see them kind of glaze over because they don't really know what you're talking about. And, at 17 and 18, you know everything that there is possibly to know about life, or so you believe. And basically what I ended up saying was, listen, you don't have a clue about who you are as a female, as a young woman burgeoning on her womanhood. You have no idea what that really means. And you're not required to have a full scope of it before you get into a real relationship or before you become a mother. Because at 19, I was actively looking for a husband. At 39, I'm coming to another chapter of my womanhood. So you never actually stop doing that. However, you've got to have first a solid sense of self, who you are. And like Ruby was saying, if you're feeling a void, you cannot bring an entirely new human being into existence because reasons. Can't do it. Because once this child is here, it belongs to you and you're responsible for its welfare, mentally, you're responsible for that child in every possible facet that you can be responsible for another human being. And I may not have birthed children, but I raised two. So I know what I'm talking about. Um, if you're looking for love in all the wrong places, baby, you can't find it on your back with this dude and that dude. The first dude to tell you something sweet, nothing in your ear, you running off with them. Like, you have to have discernment. That is the word of the night. Discernment. How to distinguish between bullshit and reality. And if you
Well,
can't do that, then you cannot embark on a marriage, and especially not parenthood, because you're gonna screw that kid up. You going to screw it up. It just is. The best of parents at the most ready time that they thought they could be ready make mistakes. But if you do it trying to keep a dude, I gotta try to keep him around me. Listen, it ain't nothing drive a man further away from you than if you become a big old aura for responsibility. If he ain't gonna want no responsibility, that's the fastest way to get rid of him, is to become an R.
facts, facts.
Okay, you cannot become an R to a man that you were supposed to be fun with. You can't do it. That does not make him want you. You're not desirable anymore. This is over. Okay. So now, some way, shape, or form, who you are as a woman. At 18 and 19, I was well on my way into my womanhood. I knew I was worthy of being somebody's wife, and I was. I knew it. I wasn't worthy of being somebody's whore. I was above that, but I was worthy of being somebody's wife. And I had to know that despite my upbringing, despite all the problems, I had to decide not to be a product of my environment, because all of the makings were there for me to be the Shaquandas and the Takeshas of the neighborhood. There was nothing in my background that said I should have been who I am. That was a conscious decision. And you can't fall into the trap of thinking that I'm too young to make conscious decisions like that. No, you're not, because if you old enough to make a decision to bring a whole human being into the world, you can make a conscious decision not to be part of your environment or the product of it, if that product is going to be negative.
Mhm. Brother Jay Shine, um,
Yes, sir.
you're a father, a single father, and by all accounts, doing a damn good job. So, what would be your advice? From a male perspective, what would you say to these young women?
Well, it's hard, man, in this sexually charged environment we're in right now. Women are red-blooded human beings just like we are. They love sex and thrills just like we do, and it's hard to tell a young lady to not do those things, especially in an environment where they're being told you can go through a whole phase. You know what I'm saying? What I mean? We got this thing where we telling girls where it's okay to go through a whole phase when
You can be
it's
a
people
hoe
that
for 2 years. Don't worry about
yeah, don't worry about it. It's we all do it. You go through a whole phase, girl, and all kinds of shit can happen to her in that whole phase. I mean, I remember sitting on the phone and Ming was schooling me on what happens to the body, things I didn't even know after an abortion. That's a result of going, being out there hoeing. You know, so you're ruining your body and you potentially can, catch an STD, all kinds of stuff. Get pregnancies, all kinds of stuff can happen to you while you're out there being a host. So what I tell my daughter is this: we talk way open because there's too much shit going on in her school to sit here and act like we to have a conversation where I'm protecting her. So protecting her is telling her what's really going on, what she needs to do, and what she really what she needs to think about. And what I have done is I have told her to calm down, sit back and watch, learn how to watch. A lot of young ladies, for some reason, they don't know all these women out here who've been pregnant and been struggling. For some reason, they don't see it. So what I told my daughters is sit back and watch how some of these fast girls turn out. And I've been right. Some of these girls that live in that fast life befriend her, turn on her, and I've been right. So I just told my daughter to sit back and watch, be patient, stop rushing, enjoy being young, enjoy being a teenager, enjoy being a young woman. And then when you're looking at a guy, look at him for what he is. That's gonna be easy for her to make that decision because she's living with a real life example. You know what I mean? Now it's gonna be harder for me to explain this to a young lady who doesn't have a male voice in the house. She's grown up in a house where there's no man support. There's only been men coming in and out laying pipe. It's hard to have that conversation with that young lady. So I really don't have an answer for that. But I would just tell her, I would try to tell her, look, that nerdy guy over there, look at it like this. You take a shy boy, he doesn't know what to do in the bedroom. You give him some, he gets a little confidence in him. He gets a little, you know what I mean? He didn't have any swag. Now he got a little swag. He got a little slick black hairdo. He got a little collar popping because you gave him some. He's becoming a man now. It's the same thing with a grown adult. You got y'all young brothers out here who put their heads down. They became, quote unquote, black nerds. They were square dudes. They didn't get caught up in the street life. They worked. They spent a lot of their time building something. So they didn't have the time to develop a quote unquote swag. But I guarantee you, you put that thing on him, he'll become the man you want him to be. What I'm saying is this: just because he doesn't walk a certain way, talk a certain way, does not mean he's any less of a man, especially black men. You know what I mean? He can be that guy that throws you up on the wall. Just it'll come. You know what I mean? Because it seems like the women now value more thrills and fun more than they value the long term thing of having a father for their children and having a family in the end. So I would just tell sisters to sit back, take your time, explore your options, and look at these other men out here who you're overlooking. A lot of our brothers get overlooked. A lot of good men get overlooked. You don't touch them. And that's the reason why a lot of us turn to being acting like bad boys because that's where you get the results. That's where you get the panani. That's where you get the action. So a lot of dudes out here fronting too. But I digress. The bottom line is that look at some of these other guys out here who don't have all that swag. Stop running after the same dick that she had and she had and she had and she had. Or it's going to increase your chance of being heartbroken and end up with an STI or an STD.
Agreed. And I'll because we coming to the end, and I'll say this. When it comes to us in black society, we often find ourselves following the quid pro quo. And we know what the quid pro quo is. The quid pro quo is usually a young woman pregnant once, twice, three times, possibly four times by 1, 2, 3, 4 different men. We see that all too often because if it happens 2 times, it's happening 2 times too often. So we know that the numbers are greater than that. Therefore, what has happened is that these men are not in these children's lives because these men don't want to be in these children's lives, or something is being done by the mother to keep the men out of the children's lives. But at any rate, we have a bunch of children who are growing up with no male figures, with no male guidance, with no male counsel, with no male structure, with no male examples. And I truly believe that it is needed in Black society. I truly believe that nothing can replace the presence of a strong Black man. It cannot be replaced. I know we've grown up in a world where we've heard women say, "I'm the mother and the father." Even when I heard that as a child, I thought it was total nonsense. I just thought it was total nonsense, and it's still total nonsense today. Because a lot of the women who say that, they're not even a damn mother. So how the hell are they going to be a mother and a father? I do believe that because there's a lack of men, because there's a lack of fathers within Black society, that Black society has become weakened. I believe that Black society is a gynocentric matriarchal matrix because of the lack of fathers in these houses, the lack of fathers in these children's lives, and the lack of men in some of these damn women's lives. So I say to you, Black folks, this is what we require. If you are a young woman who has no kids, you don't need to be having none. You shouldn't be having none until you're married to a man who you have ascertained is a decent enough father. Young boys, young men, if you don't have any kids, you probably don't need to be having any either until you have found yourself married to a decent woman who you have ascertained is going to be a decent wife. Now, for those of you who already have children, because it's not like you can take them and stuff them back in the hole. Yeah. If you have children and they have a father that's willing to be in their life, not only should you allow this man to be in these children's lives, you should encourage it. I'll say that again because y'all might have not heard me. You should encourage it. Men, you have children with the woman and you want to be in those children's lives, fight for those children. Fight to be in their lives, fight to counsel them, fight to love them, fight to instruct them, fight to rear them. Now, the last category before I finish out. If you have children by a man who doesn't want to have anything, he's made it painfully obvious that he doesn't want to have anything to do with these children. The onus is on you, women, to make sure that these young children have some type of male influence or energy. Okay? And I mean by someone respectable, not just some old brother you done dragged in from the club because you needed your damn body serviced. I mean somebody respectable, somebody decent, somebody mature, and someone who actually is willing to take the time and be bothered with the children. And I will close out with this. I feel that if we had more of this in Black society, if we had more understanding of women and how important a man was to children, and if men had more understanding of how important they are to children, Black society would be a lot better off. That is just my point of view. You can disagree. I don't care. That's what I think. So I want to thank everybody for showing up. The Unicorn 4 always throws down a good show every single night. It got a little deep tonight. I heard a little emotion in y'all voice, but it's okay. But yeah, I heard a little emotion. But yeah, the Unicorn 4, Lady Ming, Lady Katz, Lady Kendra, Lady Classic, and of course, my boy Jay Shine sat on the panel tonight. Always appreciate you, brother. You always bring something good and positive and informative to the discussion. I appreciate you coming through, brother, and sitting on the panel tonight.
Anytime.
Make sure y'all go ahead, like this video, share it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I don't know if you watching live or you watching on the playback. Make sure you like, share, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. You can even go ahead and hit the dislike button, which I done seen somebody already do. I don't care. Just hit a button. Make sure you jump over there on the Popular Thought Series Facebook page. That's Popular Thought Series at Facebook, and go over and jump on the T.P.O.T bandwagon page. And also we have a Popular Thought Series fan group page as well. And you can catch us on WhatsApp and follow us on Instagram. And make sure you stop by the website. It's www.don'teventryitit.wikifoundry.com. It's pretty interactive. You can start a thread. You can request to be a member, and you can post pictures up there just like you do on Facebook and everything else. All you have to do is request to be a member, and if you're coming there with some respect, I might just let you join. Yeah, so stay tuned, because y'all know we're doing big things. It's 2018. You're going to see a lot of new stuff coming down the pipe. A lot of good programming like this is going to be on the horizon. But make sure you come check us out next week, 9 p.m. Wednesday night Eastern time. You always see my black ass. I'm up here talking about something. And 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, you know it's the Ladies of Thought Unicorn 4 will be in the house. So I just want to thank everybody again for coming through. Lady Ming, Lady Katz, Lady Classic, Lady Kendra, and my boy Jay Shine. So with that, I will leave y'all with 3 words like I always do. Open your minds. And we out of here, y'all.
Have a good night. Thanks for having me.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Peace.
Peace, folks.
Prophet of Thought series. Open your Prophet of Thought series. Open your mind.
Only from T.P.O.T Media. Open your mind.